Hi everyone, welcome to RQ Streams. My name's Annie. Hey, first time on the stream. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you're joining us. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Before we get started, obviously, housekeeping, right? Just to go over some things really quick. Again, my name is Annie. I'm one of the audio editors at Rusty Quill. Um, I am a vocal editor for the Magnus Archives primarily. And What is Rusty Quill? For those of you who are joining us for the first time, if there are any of you, we are an entertainment company making 3 weekly podcasts focused on audio drama. We have the award-winning Magnus Archives. We have RQG, Rusty Quill Gaming, our actual play podcast, and Stellar Firma, semi-improvised sci-fi comedy show. Um, and then how oh, I'm so sorry. First time on stream here, gonna fumble a bit. It is what it is. Um, if you guys are wondering how you can support us, the best ways to do that, there is direct donation you can do through our Twitch channel. There is also subscribing on Twitch. That's a really big one for us. You can listen, subscribe, rate the podcast themselves. Tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best way that stuff like this spreads. And then, of course, there is the Patreon with a lot of really great exclusive content that you can get for not really that much a month. Finally, if you want to get more involved with the community outside of just these streams, the streams happen multiple times every week, and you can find the schedule for that on our website. But you can also find our Discord at rustyquill.com to get involved with the community. Also, I'm so sorry if I'm talking fast. I tend to do that when I first go live on things like this. So, hi guys. Today, as you've probably all seen already, I'm going to be writing some music here. I'm going to be taking you through my process for how exactly I do that, showing you a little bit about the program I use, which is FL Studio. Um, so my music project is named Skinny Pig. I started it really right at the beginning of this quarantine here. It's a new solo project that I do that's kind of like a punk rock electronic vibe, if you will. I'm really excited. I haven't really shared a lot of this music with people before, but I thought it could be a really fun thing to get some audience engagement while I'm writing here, show off my process a little bit and everything. But first, before I actually get started into writing a song, I figured I should give you guys a sample of what exactly this project sounds like. For whoever asked how long the stream's gonna last, it's gonna be about 3 hours. I'm aiming for about 2 p.m. my time. I'm in California, but that's the projected time for the stream. So without further ado, in we go to FL Studio. Here's my program. This I've been using Fruity Loops for well over half my life at this point, all the way back when it was Fruity Loops 3, and now it's FL Studio 20. This is version 12. I haven't updated to the latest version yet. But, this is a song that I wrote, if you believe it. I wrote this song in March, but it's a song kind of about being on lockdown and trying to find the, positivity in it and what have you, but also dealing with the struggles of being stuck home and far apart from people. So, without further ado, this song is called Come Together 6 Feet Apart. Also, I would love it if I could actually be performing instrumentation for you with this, but I don't have any kind of setup to be doing that right now. I'm just going to be singing it for you. So I'll air organ solo for you when the part comes up. But anyway, this is Come Together 6 Feet Apart. I tell you, I don't know where to start. My lungs are burning and it's slowing down my heart. Never thought that it would end like this. Locked inside without a target to even miss. The lights are flashing red or green, but no one's moving and the colors go unseen. Friends are asking me if I'm okay. I don't even know what to say. How can we come together 6 feet apart? We got to come together 6 feet apart. How can we come together 6 feet apart? We got to come together 6 feet apart now. The sun is set, but all the stars are dim. This isolation is a glass filled to the rim. All that's left of our report of space. I'm suffocating like a bag over my face. They say in times like these we need each other, but when disease makes a bomb out of your brother, world could fall apart and I don't care. And I don't see salvation anywhere. How can we come together 6 feet apart? We got to come together 6 feet apart. How can we come together 6 feet apart? We got to come together 6 feet apart now. As I said, I wish I had the actual organ to play for you here, but you know. Come together 6 feet apart. We got to come together 6 feet apart. How can we come together 6 feet apart? We got to come together 6 feet apart. We gotta. Whew. Thank you guys. That was a lot weirder than I expected it to be. Trying to do that completely alone without a crowd reaction, but it was fun. Hoping you guys enjoyed that a little bit. So that was just to give you a sense of the kind of music that I normally make on my own. But I make all kinds of music with the project. I try not to limit myself to anything in particular with it. And so on that note, let's dive in to how something like that is made. All right. So normally when you open FL Studio, this is sort of the default window, and I'm just going to take you through a couple of the things that you need to know or see in this program in order to understand what's happening. So right here, the channel rack, basically what you do is each individual instrument, sample, or sound that you have goes in one of these channels here. And then FL Studio is designed around old school drum machines and drum loopers and things like this. So these bits here are to mimic the buttons on what those actual machines were like. So with a kick drum and a snare drum, for example, you could go like this. You click them so they light up, and then you press play, and it sounds like this. Right. So that's how you do more of that. You also add instruments in here, and then you can set the notes for them by either recording them with a MIDI controller or by doing what's called piano roll, which is what I'll be doing today for it, since I don't have any kind of decent MIDI setup to use with this machine yet. But then that's how you write individual loops, the building blocks of the song. And then once you have your series of loops, or even just one loop, what you can do is you go over here into the playlist. And so if I put this as one pattern, made a second pattern that was with the snare, then what I could do is go pattern 1 goes in here, and then pattern 2 goes right after it, and it would sound like this. So you get the idea for the different, the way that you build building blocks into a song, and then you can arrange them over here, and that's sort of how things start to take shape. And then, so, but of course, any song needs a starting point, and I think that that's a thing that a lot of people have the hardest time with, is thinking, okay, I want to write a song. I have this empty canvas of nothing. I've got to pull it out of thin air. So, what are we going to write about? Or start with? And the answer really is, for me anyway, it starts differently depending on the kind of mood that I'm in or what I'm going for with my music. And so I tend to start more low key, either chill or like sad, melancholy songs with a melody or a chord progression with tonal sounds, and then I tend to start upbeat, dancier, or happy songs with drums, so you get the rhythm. And then, so today I was trying to figure out what I want to write about, and here's the thing, chat. I don't know if any of you guys are fans of this show, but I just finished watching She-Ra, Princess of Power on Thursday. I have seldom been able to think about anything else since. And so I want to write something today that's a little bit more chill for the most part. And the emotion that I'm going for, and anyone else who's finished the show will know what I'm talking about, is yearning. That's my keyword today. Because why not? I figure it's an easy enough thing to capture. I say, jinxing myself utterly before we even begin. So what I'm going to do here is, oh, you can't see the drop-down menus when I do this. Oof. So I have a drop-down menu open that you can't see here, where I'm picking out a sound or synth that I want to use. So I'm going to we'll use one of the built-in ones, one of the basic Fruity Loops ones. This is called Citrus or Citrus, depending on who you ask. You can go into these drop-down menus that you also can't see here. Pick out a sound, start to see what it sounds like to start playing with it. Let's see. I'm going to go with a... let me get some... normally a good place to start is a pad, so I'll get something here. I'm just going to click on something random. This one's called Figment. Let's see how this sounds. Whoa. Whoa. No, thank you, chat. No, thank you. Dawn. I feel like I've used this one before. Almost too ominous or something. I'm not sure why I'm not liking that one as much. Let's see. Rivendell, why not? Could be a thing there. Oh, and just so you guys know where I'm getting the I said I don't have MIDI set up, but what I'm doing is you can use a standard computer QWERTY keyboard to control Fruity Loops in a very basic sense. So if you, I'm literally hitting Y, I, T, Y for that, right? And it's a lot harder to play that way in terms of performance, but it works very well for writing. Okay, I have a question here. Oh, okay, so just very quick, I don't want to get too in-depth into it, but just so you know, you can write in time signatures other than 4/4. FL Studio is very much designed around 4/4, but there are options in the settings here that can change how many beats are in a measure and how many steps are in that beat, so that you can play with all kinds of different time signatures. I have written songs in 6/8 in here and in 3/4, but generally speaking, FL Studio works best when you're writing in 4/4, so just to bear that in mind. Okay, now, I don't know, I'm wondering how I feel. I'm wondering how you guys feel, chat. Do you like this as the start of a song here? Do you think that's something we can build off of, or should I keep searching? Sometimes I can't make up my mind when I first start. Yes, it is FL Studio, chat. That's the DAW that I'm using. This is FL Studio 12 because I am lazy and haven't upgraded to 20 yet. So, okay, we'll start off with this one then. We can go with this then. Let's do that. Let's see. So this here, chat, is the piano roll. Now what you can see is as I'm touching a key, the corresponding piano key for the note that I'm playing lights up. And so that's easy when you figure out which notes you're playing. You can just pencil them in like this. This is the length of time the note will play for, which we want to be very short for this. And then these are the beats in the measure, etc. Let's see. Back into pattern mode, and it sounds like this. Let's see. Woof. Way too fast. I need to slow the BPM down. I forgot to do that. So up here you can get your beats per minute, which is the tempo of the song. Speed. Particularly for a song like this, I think I might even go with 100. Let's see how that sounds. Let's go. Well, it's not quite what we were originally looking at. So I think the echo, the delay on it retimed itself a little bit, but that's kind of cool. Yeah, okay, so we can start with something like that, and then, yeah, I think I do like that better as well, actually. Has a little more depth to it, yeah. Okay, so there's a bass sound. This is the first step. This is the first hurdle you get off of. You get one thing in there that can just loop or over or under anything that you're doing, and you don't have to stick with it as the core of your song, but now you have a core that you can work off of. You build from there, then you make more decisions later on. So this is always the first step, and one of the hardest is getting something down that just sounds like what you want to be making, or like something that you could pursue and follow. So good start for that. Give me 1 second. Apologies. So now that that's done, okay, now you can see it shows up in the channel rack here in the pattern that we were creating as these nice little 4 notes that show up. And then we're going to go ahead and I think after that, let's add another synth of some kind. I know you can't see these drop down menus. I do apologize. I'm not sure why OBS Studio doesn't want to capture these boys, but we're going to go with, let's get something else. We're going a little bit more synthy here, a little bit more spacey. So this next plugin I'm pulling up here, this is probably my favorite, what's called VST plugin of all time. My favorite instrument to use. So this is called Gravity S. It is a third-party synthesizer that I had to purchase. It is quite nice for a lot of things. And so if we're working off of that pattern, if I click on something in here, like let's just say fast synth, there's one of my favorite things in here is just to do a, where is it? Maybe it's in lead synth? Yeah, some square. I gotta click back on the program and then it goes. So that's the same chord that we were doing. Now this, I think I think I already have something that's sort of more of a lead, and now we need something that's more underneath to fill space a little bit, at least for the beginning of our song here. So I think something in here might work. Oh yeah. Problem with third-party synths in Fruity Loops is that every time you click something in the synth, you then have to click something outside of the synth but within the program in order to play any notes. So let's see. A little thin. Yeah. And I'm going to keep forgetting to do it because it was not an issue in older versions. That sounds almost exactly the same. Interesting. Soft pad. That's a little, I don't know that I would describe that as soft, personally. Let's see. F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so. Well, in fact, it would be. Ooh. Yeah. Once you once you drop that octave, right, you get the lower pitch, but you play the same notes. That actually sounds pretty sweet. So that's what I think I'm gonna stick with here. And then, but of course, the real trial is always seeing how it sounds in context. Because just because you think it sounds nice when you do it by itself and you think it will sound nice when you put it with the other instruments, that doesn't make it true, you know? So now what we've put it in our pattern here, let's see what it all sounds like together. Obviously, the other thing I haven't done is set volume, so one of them may overpower the other. All stuff you got to figure out on the fly. Yeah, because that's too loud. Now, a thing that I like to do in contexts like this, I do apologize, by the way, chat, if I'm kind of blowing through this. Again, I have been doing this for most of my life, and this is my first time ever trying to show anybody else like this, especially people who might not know how to write music, my process through this. And so this is such a meditative thing for me normally that I'm just going to probably blast through some things. Tell me to slow down. If you have any questions, please do ask them. I'll try to keep up with chat to the best of my ability. But now what I tend to like to do in a situation like this is like, this sounds pretty nice. But that's a really short loop, and what that means is if I keep using that over and over again, or if I keep building in this way on just this short 4-beat loop, it's going to get really annoying in the context of a song. It's going to get old really fast. So I think what I want to do is something a little bit like this. This is kind of a trick that I've done before, which is I'm doubling the length of this, but I'm going to make it do something different in that meantime. And I don't exactly know what notes I want out of this here, but let's see. Yeah, that should be right. I'm trying to remember my music theory on the fly while also talking to people. And then, of course, because I extended the length of this, I have to extend the length of this, but I'm going to just do this with the same 4 notes. Just still working off of this as a framework. And let's see how this longer loop sounds. Yeah, see, there you go. That's a little better. Because that almost has a little bit of, like, movement to it, right? There's a little bit, it also kind of like a pretentious way to put it, but it's almost like it has a, it says something now, where it didn't necessarily say much before. It was just kind of a thing that kept happening. This is a little slower, this is a little, and it's more vibey, isn't it? That's what I think it is. Okay, and then good timing to ask that question because I just looked up as it popped up. So when how much of my note chord selection is me thinking about chord progressions and more technical musical theory versus just trying stuff, listening to it, feeling music? It's mostly just me trying stuff and figuring it out. I do have a fairly decent baseline of musical theory, but I use that more to take what I already have and think, okay, this needs more. What is the thing that I can add? What note or what chord would add that more that isn't already here right now? And that I can use my music theory for. But mostly speaking, honestly, when you get into writing melodies and chord progressions like this, especially if you don't have baseline musical theory, it's okay, because a lot of this is really, to me, it comes down to I kind of key mash a little bit at the top and see where that winds me up, and then try to wait till I find something that works out of that key smash and then go with it. And so, I mean, that's literally what I did today. I just picked up, I just hit a first note, a second note, third note, fourth note, and I went, those all sound great together. that's how I got to where I'm at. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. There is musical theory involved, but it really is all just about you just got to throw something down, and if it don't work, it don't work. Okay, so now we've got two things going on here, right? Which is this very lovely ambient thing going on here. Now, I'm going to do something to throw a bit of a curveball into it, because right now, if we were to stick with this exact direction of the song, we end up with an instrumental that's ambient, that's, chill beats to relax, study to. I am not quite looking to make that kind of song out of this. I have nothing wrong with that. I love those songs. But to be clear, I wanted to do something a little more fun. I don't want to put you guys all to sleep here a little bit. So I'm going to start, I'm going to do something that I think would be a good trick to liven this up a little bit, to make it a little bit, and it'll come in a way when I'm actually patterning out the song. It'll come in a way that makes it a bit more of a curveball. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in another Gravity S. So again, I love this synth to death. So you're going to see me probably use 3 or 4 of these in this song. Now, another thing very quickly about the way that I tend to write songs for this project, specifically Skinny Pig, is that in my normal day-to-day writing for most of my life, I tend to get very expansive and I just keep adding more and more stuff that makes it very, very difficult to mix when it comes time to actually properly sit down and tweak and fine tune and make sure everything sounds good together. When you have a lot of layers, it's very hard to do. So with this project, my goal is to try and keep things to 8 mixer channels, which is usually essentially not more than 8 sounds, but it can be, I think at max, the most I'm ever going to put on 8 channels is, or 8 mixer tracks is 12 sounds, and that includes when I would eventually write vocals and things for it. So we're going to try and keep this a bit more minimal here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some syncopated bass. That's what we're going for right now. We're going for the bass. So let's see. Oh yeah. I might need to drop the octave on this one. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's right. I'm going to put that down before I forget it. And then I'm going to go with... I'm going to probably switch the sound up a little bit. I'm not super keen on this bass. Yeah. Oh, am I doing that right? Yes, I am. Okay. Oh, you're in the wrong spot, though. And don't worry if you're not keeping up on why I'm doing certain things the way I am. I do apologize. But I promise you there is a method to most of my madness here. And all will become clear when I get to actually play the sample itself. So as you can see, now I've also gone out. You can see these ghost notes here are the notes that are in other channels in the same pattern. So as you can see, if I were to play this right now, it would go through the loop that we already have, and then the other sounds would stop dead right here, and the bass would go on by itself. So that means I need to go into these other piano rolls here, just do a quick copy and paste. You, copy and paste, and now that'll sound something like this. The bass sound itself is actually not that bad. I'm going to try a couple other basses in there to see how that sounds. But we'll decide. I may come back to this one. Let me know if you guys hear. You can see the names here. If you catch one that you really like the way it sounds, give it a shout out. I may end up going with it, but yeah, let's see. So here's the current one, FM bass guitar. I'll try this one here. Yeah, that's kind of I'm torn on this one. Nah. I think I have to stick with this. I almost think it's a little grittier and it's a little more 90s. But I think that this EP Disc Pick one is like, so okay, to put it in context, this is sort of what I'm talking about, how a song would build, right? Is you go like this. You would start with just the one sound playing. Let it get through its sort of bit here. Layer the next thing on. And so you kind of build this sound, you get this sort of vibe, this low-key thing, right? And in the final stages of this, I'll add more depth to this part here, but then eventually the bass would go with the idea that that sort of throws it in a different direction slightly. Yeah. This is... I'm starting to really like where we're going with this, chat. I'm very excited about what we have going for us here. Now it's time to pivot direction into something that seems like it would be much simpler, but is in fact much fiddlier, and that is the drums. The key to any good drum part, in my experience and in my process, the key to any good drum part is selecting the individual sounds themselves, you know, the actual snare drum and kick drum and shaker and whatever else you're putting in. You have to get very particular ones that sound a very particular way in order to fit in with what you're doing in a given song. That's always the way I've looked at it anyway. So what we're going to do is over here, this is the file browser. This is where all of the different samples and other things are held. You will see I have a folder here called Rusty Quill. Shh, you don't get to see what's in that one. And so I like to generally, within FL Studio, I more enjoy the sounds that were used by the demo projects. So you can see this right here, used by demo projects. Secrets. So used by demo projects over here is basically the songs that came with Fruity Loops in order to show you how a song is built, and like the tutorial things, and just songs that artists have made with this that they allowed FL to download the project files on your computer when you install it so that you can learn the program. They have all of their own unique samples in here, and I tend to find that they're better libraries than the Fruity Loops ones, but there are a lot of them, so it can take a while to click through and find something that you like. I do have some go-tos, like there's one particular piece of percussion that is in basically every song that you will ever hear me make. You'll probably hear this in there at some point. Conga mute. It's just a little thing. It's just literally someone muting a conga and hitting it. But when you put it in context, you can do a lot of really fun things with it. So I'm going to put that over what's currently called the clap in here. And I'm going to make a separate pattern to show you drum stuff, at least for now. So it would sound something like this. Nope. Oh, damn it. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, so something like this. You do something syncopated with a conga mute there, but then when you put that with, like, I'm just going to use the default sounds for now just to demonstrate. But if you go... makes you groove a little bit, right? That sort of syncopation in there. And so that's something that, as a trick, if you guys ever hear any other of my music, you'll hear one of those very quietly in the background of just about everything that I make. So we're just going to go, I'm going to go back to the well on this. I'm going to use the stuff that I know and I'm familiar with so I can so I can keep this moving and not bore you with how long it normally takes me to select my drums. Well, that is a nice thick kick, as they called the sample name in there, was thick kick. But not what I'm looking for this. Let's see. I don't like when kick drums have like a hi-hat over them. It's like, just give me the kick drum. Oh my god, why is it Club Penguin? Why did Afixia write a song called Club Penguin, Chad? Who knew, right? So, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this into here and go. Oh, whoops. And then just we'll loop that in a little bit, but I kind of want to see if I like. So this kick drum right here, this is more of a boom than I wanted it to be. There's so much bass involved in this kick here that I'm not positive that this is exactly what's going to fit, but I'm intrigued that it might. Now the question is, what rhythm do I write for it? But let's try this. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know that was quick, chat, but oh yeah, that kick, that sound in context of this, woof, a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Let me tell you. All right, so now next up, after you find, I tend to normally start with a kick drum because a kick drum is the thing that's going to kind of, whether you want it to or not, it's going to end up pervading the whole song. It's going to be something that everybody can hear at pretty much every moment. So, Cheetah people, yes, I do often like to sit down and fine tweak samples. I'm not going to do so much of that today because I want to keep moving, but it is fun to kind of mess with the pitch, throw a little EQ on there. You can really take a sound as it exists and make it sound like something completely different, and it's very, very fun. But we're not going to go into that so much today, I don't think. I want a nice, I know I was joking about chill lo-fi beats earlier, but I kind of want that kind of a snare drum in here, like something that sounds a little lo-fi and warm, so let's see if I can't find a kind of snare that's like that. Let's see. Let's see. It's not bad. Yeah. We'll go with it for now. I can always come back to it later. Let me go ahead and fill in this looping pattern here. Yeah, sorry, this part is not interesting. You just kind of have to fill in everything when you make a loop that is as long as we have here with the chords. You have to fill everything out to that same amount of time, so it's going to be doing the same thing over and over again. What I'm going to do for the drums here is I'm going to use that same pattern over and over again. But I'm going to use the fact that the loop is this long to make it have this sort of pickup back into the front here. So you'll hear that the very last loop of the drums before it loops back to the beginning is going to sound slightly different, so that you can really get the flow of like, okay, we're coming back to one here. Oh, hi Nico. And yes, it is FL Studio 12 that we're working in today. If you're just joining us, hi, welcome. We're writing songs. I am sort of going through my whole process here, trying to work with you guys. Yeah, so here's what we have now, chat. With the drums added in, I'm going to start with them out, and then we're going to add them in. So here's where we were before with the bass. So this is when the bass has just come in, right? And then... Oh, I forgot to... Whoops, hold on. I forgot to put the snare in the rest of the way. Oh no, oh no. Almost completely missed it. Okay, sorry. Now, here it is with the drums. So now, two more things I'm going to do with those. I think this is a very good start to what we have going here. But I'm going to do two things to just flesh out these drums just a little bit. They're good, and I want to push it just over the edge here. You know what I mean? So first thing that I need is I need one more hi-hat. This can be almost anything. I am much less picky about my hi-hats than I am about other things. Woof, that's aggressive. If I skip by some songs where it looks like I just open and then immediately close them, it's because I've done this for so long that I know if I open a song and I see some of the samples, I go, oh, it ain't in there. So, let's see what we got. No, I need something a little more, a little bit tighter. Why? That's more like it. There we go. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go fill each two steps. So that auto-populated the whole pattern here. And now what that does is that provides a straight backbone for the syncopated conga mute that we already have, which I'm going to turn it down though because the hi-hats tend to come through real loud. And then so that sounds like this. Because see, now that's got something that's straight that keeps the beat very easily trackable, you know, but it makes everything else around it feel like there's more happening. It feels like it's alive a little bit. It's alive. So with that going, I love that sample is named Hi, by the way. With that going on, the other thing that I want to do to flesh out these drums before we move on to showing you guys how you arrange something is I want this snare to have a little bit of reverb on it, because as it is right now, it kind of falls a little dead. It sounds like it's in a padded room. It sounds like it's in a studio, and I want it to sound like it has some space to it, and it lasts a little longer, and that'll also fill out the sound a little bit. So I'm going to open the mixer here. Now, I believe... Well, let me see if I can get it to show up, because it doesn't... The mixer is here in my view, but it's not capturing in yours, so it'll look like I'm working on something invisible. So I'm going to try and do something here, but I think... Hey, yes, okay, I made it invisible. So this is the mixer. Here's where you... So over here, these volumes that I've been working with are the gains. These are the actual volumes. You use these little number selectors here to assign each channel to a mixer track so that you can add effects and work with the levels in here on them. I tend not to add things to tracks unless I need effects on them until I get to the actual mixing stage of thing, because I find it's just kind of time consuming. But our snare, as you can see, is on track 4, which means it's here. Over here we have our effects. These are all just empty slots at the moment, but I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find myself a nice reverb. So now, of course, there's certain things you can do with the reverb that are insane. So this is the sound of it if you hit the snare drum inside of a cathedral. Oh, sorry, that's the hi-hat. Ha! That was anticlimactic. Snare drum, if you hit it inside of a cathedral, goes on forever. And of course, then if you keep hitting the snare drum like on beat, it just gets blurry and muddy and kind of, it's almost like it's talking over itself. So I like the venue for a snare drum sometimes, this preset here. It's still pretty long, but it's a lot quieter by the time the next beat would come in. There's also where it sounds like it was in a real drum room. I'm looking for something. I think I'm going to try the venue. Let's see how this sounds, chat. Yeah. Do you see how that just has more body to it, almost, that snare? Also helps with the ambient, almost video gamey thing that we have going on with it there. This is not the direction I expected the song to go in, I have to tell you, but I'm not complaining. Vibing with it right now. So, next phase we're going to move on to here is I'm going to start showing you how you arrange a song to build, because now we have a thing that is a self-contained loop, right? If I leave this playing, it will just play like this forever and not change. And if I want it to change, if I want the song to live in the way that we've been writing it like this, I now have to move on to arranging it, which is where we get to. I'm going to move this mixer back out of the way. If we need it again, I'll pull it back up, but it's going to disappear for now. Now we move into this. This is the playlist, as I said. This is where you take clips and you build them and arrange them in the order that they go. Now, this is just one clip with all of our sounds in it, which means all I can do is put it in as it is, and then it will just do the same thing that it was doing in the pattern mode, which is play the same thing over and over and over again. I can't work with the individual sounds in here because they're all part of the same clip. So, what you do is in the channel rack here, or actually you can do it by right-clicking on the pattern name up at the top here. You just hit this little thing here. Oh, that's right, you can't see my popped-up menus, which that's very annoying. But there's I promise you, at the bottom of that pop-up menu, there's a button that says Split by Channel. Boom. Now what we have is all of these patterns here, which are named after the sounds that we have, right? Rivendell, the two Ravity S synths, our kick, conga mute, hi-hat, and snare. These are all here. I know you can't see them, but now we have each of these individual patterns. I can actually scroll through them here to show you. And as you get onto each pattern, you see that's the individual section of the thing that we were just writing. So, here's how we wrote the song, right? We started with this sound here, Rivendell, which is the... right, that's a good little thing there. We could let that loop 4 times, but I think it drags a little bit on its own, so you can change the length of a pattern by literally just clicking and dragging on the end like this. So I'm going to get it down to there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in, so let me get the full pattern up. So there, I will bring in the pad that we wrote, chat, to go with it. I'm going to snap to a slightly easier grid just so we have an easier time with this here. Not a third of a beat. Yikes, that'll get dicey. So now we have a thing that sounds like this. See, just the way that we wrote it, right? And then from there, right, I'm just going to copy and paste these guys. Oh, shoot. There is an interesting thing that happens with copy and paste in this, where if you paste over something that already exists, it will offset it slightly rather than duplicating. So you have to make sure you're pasting into an open spot. It's very annoying because then you can't get it to quite snap correctly. But now that that's in, right, I think that with the pad we want it to loop a little bit longer so that the bass comes as more of a change up when it comes in. So I'm going to give it a full 8 measures of looping there, and we're going to grab that bass now, which is you, slap that in next. So now this is what we've ended up building here. And again, in later stages of writing a song, what I tend to try to do is... Well, here, let me let this happen first. Bass might be a little bit loud. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's a really good way to show off. These are the things that we wrote in the order we wrote them. That's usually the very simplest way to build an intro to a song, is the way that you wrote them are the way that they came to you, and then it kind of ends up just making sense to put them in that order when you're arranging your actual clips into a song here. And so from there, of course, the drums were the next thing. So I'm going to add all the drums in at once. I'm going to just do it this way. Right? So all the things that we were just working on, you can kind of see them stack up here. I like to keep them all separate, but for any of you who have experience with other DAWs, digital audio workstations, making music in other kinds of programs, one thing that is unique about Fruity Loops that I really want to emphasize is that normally in a program, when you're arranging in this way, when you're doing the chronological arrangement of the song, each of these tracks can only have one thing on it, but that's what this is in Fruity Loops. In Fruity Loops, I could take this and I could put it here and it will still play, even though that's the track that our pad is on. These tracks are freeform and yours to use however you like. So now here's what we have for our song all the way up to this point. We've only been doing this for about 45 minutes now, so that's actually pretty impressive. This is going a lot faster than this normally goes when I'm doing it by myself. I just want you to know that I'm kind of impressed about that. Right, and there you have it. So the drums drop in there. Now you'll probably notice, those of you with an ear for this sort of thing, as much as I am enjoying writing this, and as much as I honestly think we're onto something really good here, the levels are not right, and so as you hear certain sounds come in over others, it'll dip and come back up. You know what I mean? Like it kind of, like the kick drum will kind of make everything else a little bit quieter every time it hits, and it'll duck like that. That's because on my mixer, which you don't need to see the mixer for this, but I am going to pop something up. On the master channel, there is, I hope this is here. Oh, thank you for the bits. Dancing, yes. This right here, okay, you can't see it, thank God. This is the limiter. And so when we get into the parts where, oh, of course I just lost it behind everything. Put it over here. When we get into the parts of the song where like the drums come in and everything, what you're going to see is this. As loud things play, this is the overall volume, and it's turning down the overall volume of certain things within the song, of the whole song in general, as certain things hit, to keep it from getting too loud and distorting. Now, my advice is, if you're using, first of all, my advice is to use a limiter. Nobody likes clipping, but if you're working with something like this where there is a limiter involved, and you start to notice these sorts of ducks and these sorts of issues within what you're doing, when you're writing, make note of it. Leave it alone. If it's intrusive on your writing, turn down the gain of whatever, if you can figure out what is making it duck like that. But as it is, we're going to leave it alone right now, chat. We're not mixing this song today. We are just writing it. So, now, well, okay, we've got the bare bones framework of a thing. We have the start of a song where there's an intro that builds up and then it gets into a main part of the song here where the drums come in. Now, usually the next thing to do from here, in most cases, would be, as long as I'm on a roll, to start writing the chorus, the hook, as you you know, if you like, various different ways to think of it, particularly if you're not using a traditional song structure. But in this case, we'll be doing a chorus in a little bit here. But first things first, I did notice a couple of parts of this that could use a little bit of refining. So, for example, the way this comes in with the main part here is... Right. Which sounds pretty cool, but I think it would sound better if we had a little bit of a crash cymbal right when it hits. I think it would. I may end up being wrong, but what I want to do is find... yeah, no, we're not using that one. We'll find something in here that is a nice crash cymbal to give it more punctuation when it hits. You know what I mean? I gotta find something in here that's got a good crash. You know, it's funny. There's so many of each individual sound in here, and then the second that you're actually looking for one of them, you just can't find it. You know what I mean? I'm just not seeing where are the crashes. Give me a good crash. Give me a crash. Yeah, that's the problem about digging through the demo folders, as I was talking about earlier, which I love digging through the demo folders. I find that the stuff in here tends to be much better, but then it's sorted by song, not by sound type, so it can tend to be a lot harder to find the specific things that you're looking for. I love this. It's a fun little way to do a build-up in a song. Okay, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm thinking that... oh, there we go. No. There you don't go. We're not going with that one, chat. I gotta tell you, we're not... That's not what... That's better. Thank you. So what you can do is you can take, as I was saying, this is, you know, you have your patterns over here, and I could drag this onto here, this sample, and it would start to... thank you for the bits.
Testing a theory, so hello, Tim.
Thank you for the bits, non-binary star system. I could drag the crash cymbal onto here, and it would do that, or I could even drag it straight onto the playlist, and now you'll see, boom, now it's just this nice pretty little waveform that happens here. So, but of course, when I drag it straight on here, one consideration is it is loud in comparison, so I tend to just try to turn it way down. And now, when that comes in... Right. It's just that there's that punctuation to it there. There's that this is the start of a new thing. And it's a very basic thing. It's in a lot of songs. And I'm definitely in the later stages of refining this. The idea would be to try and work it in such a way that there's maybe an echo on it or a bit of reverb or something. Make it sound a little fancier, you know, as we go. But as it is, that's just a very simple way to spice up any transition there. And then the other thing that I'm noticing is that this bass line... I want to tweak it a little bit because, as you know, the bass line by itself is just... But I think what we could do here is take these last two notes, keep them exactly where they are, but make them a different note. Put them back up to this level here. And what that sounds like is... Right, it sort of pulls it back up into the loop, excuse me. And so now in context, that sounds a little bit more like this. Right? So you can kind of feel that build around in that way. Um, yeah. And so there we go. Now there you have it, chat. We have made in under an hour, we have gone around and made the very first part of a song. Now, one more thing that I'd like to do, and then I'll probably end up hitting a break here real quick. But one more thing that I want to do here is something that I tend to do when I write my songs like this is that I tend to make, because verses, as you see this right here, if you take a look at our minutes and seconds counter up here, this verse goes from 43 seconds to a minute 21. So that's, over, it's almost 40 whole seconds of the same loop over and over again, about half the song. And so spicing that up a little bit is key, because songs can, particularly when you build from loops the way that you do, or the way that I do, and the way that this program is designed to, it's better to keep things fresh as you go as much as possible. So I like to take the second half of my verse and just add one more layer on top of it, one more sound, one more instrument, one more thing. And for that, we're going to go back into this section of it, and I'm going to grab a different synth this time. Let's try what do I want to try? Let's try Harmless. This synth is called Harmless. This is one of the built-in Fruity Loops synths, and we're going to go ahead and look through some leads here. Right, so that's the pattern that we already have. Not quite feeling that particular sound, but we'll keep searching. I also forgot, whenever you put in, there's these two plugins, Harmer and Harmless. Whenever you put them in, they are just blaringly loud. Way louder than they need to be. I'm not sure. Woof, no. No, I think I'm going to go slightly different direction with this. I need something. I'm actually going to go off of Harmless here back into Citrus, because I know what I want to do here. What I want to do here is, instead of an individual sound or something that is just going to duplicate something that exists, we want to make it something fresh, something new. So what I'm going to use is an arpeggiator. Which is to say, this is an arpeggiator in this context is a synth instrument where when I play a chord, instead of playing the chord as it stands, where it's just 3 notes or however many notes on top of each other, this will play an automated pattern out of the notes that I build. So in this case, for example, right. Something like this. I don't think that's quite the one I want to go for, but that is nice. We could come back to that if it ends up being right for it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Something along those lines. So we'll find the exact one that we want. If you guys, you can see the name of whatever synth I'm using, of whatever patch I'm using for the synth up here. And so if you hear one that you're particularly attached to, give it a shout out. But I'm just going to go through until I find the one that is right to me. Now, this is one of my favorites, Cube, but it's also the highlight of another song of mine. So I have to really love it in context in order to use it anywhere other than the song it already exists in. But Ooh, that might be it, guys. I just love this one so much. It's hard for me to say no to it, but like, it adds a little groove, you know what I mean? On top of everything else, it still keeps that same like semi-melancholy ambient thing that we have going, but it really adds its own level to it. So I think I'm sticking with that one. Think that's the one, guys. All right, let me get to a new blank pattern and write that in. So that was. So this goes all the way out for four whole measures, and then the bottom note was this. It was here, 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 and here. Same four notes as the pad that we already have in, but we're gonna go like this, and now once I add that in here, now here's what our verse sounds like. I'm gonna go from four measures before the verse so we get the full picture of how this builds. Right. And then here it comes. Oh, oh, Chad. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Uh huh. Uh huh. I think we really found it there, guys. Oof. Yes. Okay. Cool. So there you have it. That's how I tend to build a song from thin air up through a verse here. We're going to be definitely getting more into it here, guys. But for the time being, let's give it one listen through all the way from the beginning, work on tweaking where we're at now. If you guys have any suggestions, if you have any questions or anything like that, here's a good time for it. In about 20 minutes or so, we'll hit a quick break and then we'll be back. But for now, here's the song as we have it so far. See what you guys think. See if you guys think we need to add anything, take anything away, improve anything. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk over it too much. I really want to take it in. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think that that's a really interesting. I also like, and so, oh, here's a good lesson for you, chat, that I realized while we were doing that listen through there. Here's a good lesson for you. With anything creative that you make, in my opinion, but certainly with music, is this is from, I don't even remember where the quote's exactly from, but it's honor thy mistake as a hidden intention, right? So I did make a mistake where I said, oh yeah, this ARP here is doing the exact same thing as the pad is doing that's in the background, so it'll kind of flow together nicely. Well, what I didn't realize is that whereas this is 4 beats per chord in here, this is 2 beats per chord, right? So as this is moving, this moves twice as fast as this, and then what that ends up doing, and then of course this moves at the same speed but on different notes the whole time. Now that could end up being something that's not that could end up being something that sounds really bad, that kind of really throws a song off. But in this case, it made for something that's just more complex, more I don't know, intricate, I guess, than something that I could have written on purpose. Trying to write this sort of thing in, that sort of weird counter moving thing in, is something that I don't know that I could really pull off on my own intentionally, but because it happened by mistake, you wind up with something that's, you know, it's so much more complicated. You know what I mean? And there's much more going on, and it's more interesting to the ear, I think. So, yeah, okay. So, chat, while we're here, do you guys have any suggestions for things you want to do up to this point in the song? Any questions for me on where we're at, or anything else of that nature? And if not, there are a couple things that I think that I want to add here, but I want to get your take first. I want to see if I can't address some of your guys' stuff first. So if there's anything else going on here, I'm going to take a sip while I wait for chat to catch up. Okay. While you guys are thinking about it, if anyone does have anything, if you're typing or whatever, I'm just going to quickly do one thing that I like to do to sometimes, particularly within this kind of context, with this sort of electronic-y vibe. This is a very, very basic thing you can do to build into it. Anna asked, do I envisage this as instrumental or with lyrics? I think based on the way the structure's building, I think lyrical. Because if this were instrumental, I'd kind of be approaching it in a different way. I certainly came in with the intention of writing a lyrical song today, not all the way through, because lyric writing, I'm not, no offense guys, but I'm not going to do that live on camera. It's not fun. It's not interesting like this is. But I envisage it as eventually having lyrics. I would like it to have lyrics, and I'm certainly treating the song structure that way. So, so a quick thing, as I was saying, that you can do to spice any transition up, and a very, very conventional thing that you'll hear within a lot of electronic music is this. This is my crash cymbal here, the one that you heard at the beginning and end of each of the parts, the psh, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it, or clone it is what the menu option says. So now there's a second one here. It's exactly the same. What I'm going to do then is open this window here. This is all of the settings for that sound. And I'm just going to click the button that says reverse. Now, you can see it is the backwards version of the one that already exists. I'm going to place that up here. I'm going to zoom in quite a bit so that I can actually match up so that they time up properly. Take the snap off. So this is snapping to grid. I'm setting it to none so I can freely drag. And then you just get these to line up kind of like that. So there's the tiniest gap. That gap will not be audible, trust me. Make sure you turn your snap back on because I often forget to do so. Let me zoom back out. And now the transition from the intro into the verse has even a little bit more life to it. And it sounds like this. Right, that's a common thing that you'll hear throughout a lot of different electronic and EDM music, is that, right, of the reverse crash into the normal crash. So that's how you get that done, in case you were wondering. So next time you hear that, you know what that is. I'm not positive that I'm going to end up keeping that in this song in the long run, but as it is right now, I think it was good to show that, and also... yeah, because I wanted to show you guys that it really is that straightforward and that simple, and just try to show you just there's little tips and tricks, and the longer you do it, the more of them you're going to know on how to make your song have that little bit of extra life in it at each turn. So um, I'm glad you guys all vibe with this so much. I'm really vibing with it too. I haven't ever done anything like this. I haven't written electronic music collaboratively since I was like 14 or 15, really. So it is really nice because it's a whole different world now that I've had the kind of experience that I've had with it, and the time spent with it. And so sharing this out here, it's really nice, and I am glad that you guys are enjoying it. um, so I'm going to give one more listen through, and then I think I'm going to take a break, and then when we get back, we're going to move on to writing another section of the song and another, as I said, probably basically a chorus is the idea that I'm thinking of for the song. But for now, here's where we are, guys. We're about an hour in since we started, a little more than an hour in since we started actually working on this song, and we've gone from flat nothing out of thin air to this. Yeah, see that ARP? That really does sell it when it comes in, doesn't it? So there we go, guys. That's what we have built so far. You guys have built that as much as I have. Honestly, this is moving a lot faster than it normally does for me, so I really want to make it clear that I'm not just saying that. It's really helpful to have you guys here and be using your suggestions and working off all this, so thank you. I very much appreciate your time being here. Yeah, so for now, I'm going to close out Fruity Loops here. Well, not close out, but I'm going to take it off your screen for you here. And just let you know, so I'm going to take a quick break. I'll probably be away for 5 to 10 minutes. I'll give shout outs, answer questions, whatever you guys have for me after that time. But unless there's anything else, I am going to go stretch my legs and turn on the fan for 5 minutes because it is so friggin' hot for only being noon here in California. So I will see you back here in a little bit, guys. Welcome back, chat. Hello. It's me. I'm back with a mason jar full of ice water. Hydration break. Cheers. One quick thing that I forgot the whole time that we were working before that I shouldn't have, and this now serves as a reminder to any of you who may have any such related creative projects or anything else open, save your files. Crashes happen. I've seen people lose 6 hours of work before on songs because they did not save. So I've now saved that project while I was away. So, and we'll get a little bit more into that and into my advice around naming projects and things like this once we get back into it. But just very quickly, wanted to do a little bit more housekeeping as I was before. So, social media stuff, you can follow Rusty Quill, obviously, on Twitter at the Rusty Quill. You can follow me on Twitter at Annie Ruby _. That's all one word, ANNIE_RUBY_. And when you go on that Twitter there, you can check my bio for it. I have a link now to my Bandcamp, which I just launched last night. There is 4 demo recordings, including one of the songs that I played for you guys earlier. They are free to download. They're pay what you want to download, I should say. So they're free for you to get. But if you guys do want to throw some money my way, I wouldn't say no. It is a pandemic, y'all. And so, if you guys want to head over there at @AnnieRuby_ on Twitter, you can get the link from my bio. Or if you want to skip that step, there the Bandcamp website itself is all one word: skinnypig.bandcamp.com. SKINNYPIG.bandcamp.com. So now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get back into it, guys. So as you can see here, now that I've got this up, you can now see there is a file name up in this little section on the side here. My recommendation with it is, oh sorry, I realized my mouse was invisible. Up here you can see I have the file name, and I just named it Space Vibes with a Z. I recommend not taking your naming convention too seriously, but also trying to make it something memorable. You probably don't want to title the song, especially if you're going to write lyrics, you probably don't want to title it. So you have lyrics, and you probably, in general, want the song finished before you really do put too much thought into exactly what it's going to be. When I was younger, I would spend a very long time paralyzed with the save window open, just like, what do I want to name it? Like as if it was set in stone once I did that. So don't do that. Don't worry about titling your song. Just name it something that you will remember it by, and keep moving on with the song, because the actual process of writing here is the most important one. So now, when we left off, we had a full intro, a verse with 2 parts. And a lot of little transitions and fine tunes and tweaks that we've done. Now, the next step is to write a chorus. Now, my personal belief in the way that you write a chorus is that you should use the same instruments that you have. You should use all of them or close to all of them for a more traditional sort of chorus where it's a big, ball-busting boom thing that happens. Sometimes, in order to make that more effective, you write a very minimal chorus where it's just 1 or 2 of your instruments and everything else drops out and it gets soft. But we're going to stick with the more traditional. We're going to make something big and what have you. So what we're going to do is we're going to make another brand new blank pattern here. So pattern 9 has nothing in it, as you can see. And we're going to start from scratch in here at building something with the existing instruments that we have that is distinct from what we have with the verse. One of the easiest ways to do that is to start with whatever you actually started with when you wrote your song first. So in this case, it's the Rivendell. It's this guy. That thing, right, that we already had. And then you want to start with, you want to keep it in the same key if you know the music theory of it, but you also want to make it a distinct and different pattern. So in this case, I'm thinking something more like, it's hard to hear with all that echo on it, but so I'm thinking something like, I'll write it out and see how it sounds. So that's something like this. That's, nope. Just realized I need to go into here. God, clear up all those echoes there. It gets a little hard to listen to, and then you hear. And this is sort of the key smash thing that I was talking about doing, where you kind of wind up, I'm just putting in things that I know work within the theory, but I don't really know what they're going to sound like in context, and then we're just going to play it and we're going to see how it sounds. And I'm just trying to make it something that is interesting, right? So this is what I just wrote. We'll see how it sounds. I might not like it at all. Let's see. What do you think? I'm on the fence about it. What do you think about that? Play it again a little more for you here. All right. I think we'll stick with that. For the sake of time, I think that's good enough. I think that that's something that we can work with here. And then let's, if I want to mimic those chords exactly, then what I end up with is this. And then we can decide if we want to not end up with this exactly, right? I'm just going to do that, and then to Q and go bam, and let's see how this sounds. It's a lot more tense than the verse, isn't it? That's kind of nice. Give it a slightly different vibe. Um, so, okay, yeah, let's keep working with that then. So let's get, now there's the bass, right? Again, we're just building in layers here, people. We're just going to stick with it as straightforward as we can. So that's, I want the bass to have more of a line here, you know what I mean? Let's see how this sounds. So this is going to be in time with the other things that are there, but let's see. Oops, that didn't sound right, did it? Why did that transition note not sound like it was on the right beat? Interesting. That's probably better. 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you know what? You know what's interesting? This is a thing that I sometimes fall into, and this is getting a little bit esoteric, if you will, with it. But basically, with the way that the echoes play out on that lead that we have on that main thing that we're doing, it almost makes this song feel like it's no longer in 4/4, which means no longer counting 1, 2, 3, 4 as the beats. It makes it feel like it's doing something slightly different, which it's not actually. But with only these as frames of reference, you start to hear a very different kind of song. The easiest way, in my experience, to overcome that is I'm just going to drop this pattern on as assembled here, right up against there, and I'm going to put the same drums that we already have underneath it here, so that we can hear on the same beat and in the same meter that we already have it, what that sounds like. So we're going to get the last 4 measures of the first and then 4 measures of this and see how it feels in the actual context and in the actual time of the song. Yeah, see, it's not quite there now. Now that you hear it with that beat there, it's not it's not what we thought we were getting, because I think that we all, or at least me, I shouldn't speak for you guys, but at least for me, I was hearing a syncopation that didn't actually exist. I was hearing a rhythm to it that was not the actual rhythm once you put it within the context of the song. So if you listen again, you can kind of hear, I'm just going to do from 1 measure out here, right? Listen to the lead here. The something about the way that the lead is there feels very off. The bass being on the bump, 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 like that feels really good, but something about the way that the what the lead is doing there just isn't doing it for me. I'm not sure. So we're gonna work. So back into pattern mode here. We got this. You know what it is? It's because there's nothing on the last beat here. I think that the lead needs to be on every beat in order for me to fully feel this the way that I want to. Do you know what I mean? Because the way the echoes go, if there's not something on every beat, it just feels wrong in some way, particularly because these have been on every beat for the rest of the song so far, you know? So let's see how this sounds. So this is slightly different, but yeah, see, I can almost kind of keep the beat more in my head when I hear it that way. And so now, with the context of the drums, from the verse, right? It almost feels like the other thing too is it almost feels like it's not supposed to be the focus anymore, and it is a little bit too much. So I'm going to show you guys another control that we have in here when we're writing in piano roll, as I've been doing this whole time when we're writing notes. There's a control at the bottom here called velocity. Velocity is a standard value with anything that uses MIDI, so this is even within your cheap home keyboards and things. They'll have what's called the velocity setting, and it refers very literally to, if you think about a piano, when you press a key harder, the key is moving at a higher velocity, and that's literally what it refers to. And so these are all the way up here, which means they're being hit pretty hard if they were played on a keyboard. And if we soften them up just a touch, right, about a third softer from where they were, they'll sound a little more delicate, a little less aggressive, and hopefully a little less overbearing for that reason. It's the hope, anyway. I don't know how you guys are feeling about the way they're sounding in context right now, but right. So then, and then you kind of, as it loops back to the beginning of the song, you can hear the difference in the way that the way that feels, the aggressiveness, as I said, and the hardness of that sound. It backs off a little bit in the chorus to give the bass, which is what's currently kind of driving the mood of the song, the vibes of what we're doing here. They're being very largely driven by the bass once you get into that chorus there. So one more time with context, I'm actually just going to give it one measure worth of context here so you can hear. Right, because then, so there, the bass really takes that over, the way that it feels like it's supposed to. You got to listen to what the song is telling you, man. Not to get too like vibey, hippie, yeah, dude. But you do. You have to, at some point, you have to accept when there's something that's just not working, that it's because that's not meant for that song. It's not meant to be that way in the context of that song. And when you work with that and you learn to do something different with it, you only get better results. So it's important to never be too attached to certain parts of your songwriting. Anything can change at any moment, and in the words of one of my favorite bass players, the song is the ultimate master. At the end of the day, what matters is that you got a good song. So one more thing to add to the chorus, and we may end up deciding that it's not worth it, but I want to try that arpeggiator here and see if we feel like what it adds to the chorus is worth adding, basically. And my idea for how I'm going to do this is that I'm going to follow the pad with this here, but I'm also going to do something else, which is I'm going to play around with some upper notes up here, because the interesting thing about arpeggiators is that because they work on pre-written patterns, right, on a sequence of notes, right, they tend to do things in such a way where when you start to make little shorter bits, like you see here, where some of the notes are a little bit shorter, sometimes they'll be completely silent, sometimes they'll throw something in at a different point in the pattern for each loop that you do, and it can make your song that much more complex by sort of intentionally breaking the algorithms, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, but okay. So this is what that's going to sound like now with the arpeggiator. We'll put it in, first of all, with no drums. I also need to turn one more thing. I need to turn the velocity back up on this guy. Right? So that it's back to the level the verse was. Because Fruity Loops remembers that I turned the velocity down on the other thing, and so now every note I enter will have whatever the last velocity that I adjusted was. So now, with the ARP, it sounds... Yeah. Yeah. And then with drums. Yeah. And now we're back in vibes, if you ask me. In a song like this, you may have noticed that I originally just put the drums in to the chorus to I put the same drum pattern that we already have. Now, oftentimes when you write a chorus, you can or even want to rewrite a new drum part for them. In this case, I'm keeping the drums as they are in the existing patterns and configurations and things in order to give a nice bit of continuity to the song, because that way this transition, because sometimes if you rewrite the whole drum pattern, if you rewrite every single part of everything in the song and have no through from the verse, nothing else that continues from the verse exactly as is, it just feels like you've suddenly switched songs. It's much more jarring. So I think I'm gonna keep those drums exactly as they are. I gotta throw my crash in here. Let's see if I want the reverse too. We'll find out. Let me actually do this by copy pasting. Bam. Oops. One measure off. Okay, there. So now, the transition from the verse to the chorus, we have this. Yeah, with the reverse. There you go. Now we have a verse, an intro, a verse, and a chorus, chat. That's like 90% of the battle. Now we've got all the basic building blocks of a basic song. And if we did nothing else but this and just recut these parts and looped them, then we would still be able to call it a complete song. A boring song, but that's what it takes to get you to the part where you can just get the most basic song done. This is a bit of a step-by-step way of doing it, and obviously there is still a learning curve. I'm not expecting that if you pick up this, I would be really impressed if you were this quick at it day one, because as I said, I've been doing this in this program since I was 11 years old. So don't feel discouraged if you do try to get into writing music and using a program like this. I have literally been doing this longer than I have been doing anything else in my life. So, but here we are. Now we've got this thing written out, and the end of the first chorus, we are about a minute and 50 seconds into this song. So, last consideration is I like to try to make a new sort of transition out of a chorus before we go back to a verse. And the easiest way to do that is to take out your hi-hats for the last 4 beats or 2 beats. I'm going to go with 2 at this point in time here. So now, and then I'm going to copy paste the verse in, right? I'm going to take what we've already done and go whop and pop. And now, the way this sounds is like this. Now we have a transition back out and we go back into the same verse that we already built. So that would be like this. Right, so you kind of hear just that one part of it drop out a little bit, and now we're back to that original thing that we wrote, right? And then we'll have to. Now, the interesting thing, one thing I am gonna show you how to do it, and then you tell me if you think we should keep it or not. One thing that can make for a really nice and interesting transition back into a verse is, at the end of the chorus, right, you put a little gap where you get very minimal. So I'm going to do exactly what we did at the start of the song, which is just this loop twice, right? And so now the transition out of the chorus will sound something like this. So this is from the start of the chorus. Right. So that could work, but I think it needs a little something more so that we don't lose our rhythm through that. So I'm going to add the snare in over the top of that, and we'll just see how that goes. Yeah, I think that's a little better. Let me know what you think, guys. Did you like it better when we just went straight from the chorus back into the verse, or do you like this sort of 2-measure transition here? Or do you like the 2-measure transition and think that it needs more to it than just those 2 sounds? Do let me know what you think before we move on. I want to get an idea of how it is. Stay hydrated. Cheers. Okay, I think we're going to stick with that then, unless anybody else has any very specific suggestions. Now, the easiest thing about songwriting, when you've got it to this point in a song here, where you have these very basic blocks, you've got some transitions built, is that if you want, and if you feel like this is the best way to make this song happen, you can just take what you've already got, copy it. Whoops, sorry. Take what you've already got, copy it, paste it on the end. Bam. Now we have 2 verses, 2 choruses. It's that simple, just the copy paste. But we've got time here, chat. We have more time than I was expecting to have. And so I want to really start to show you guys the different things that happen that put songs from the, take songs that are good, that are well based, that have good writing principles put into them, and what have you. How you take those from just songs that exist, it's great, you have a thing at the end, it's good, to something that is really actually well written and thoughtful. There's just small little tips and tricks. I've been giving you a few of them, and so now one of the big keys that I want to talk about, and I wasn't planning on getting to this here, so I'm actually really really super stoked. I also, as you said, I cannot believe this has only been like 2 hours. I'm very thrilled with the results that we have so far. Oftentimes when I'm by myself, it doesn't. I'm not to this point this fast. So now what I want to start to do is, instead of, because right now what we've got right end of the first verse is into the chorus, and then end of the second verse into the chorus is the same exact thing, right? So what a song, one thing that you can do to take a song from written and decent to well written to crafted, things like this. One of the biggest and simplest ways to do that is transitions, is building ways for your song to go from one thing to the next that aren't sudden, that aren't hard cuts, and that don't repeat themselves. That's one very simple way to make a song not sound like you didn't put any thought into it, to make it sound not cookie cutter, is to try and do things to make the song flow, to make it have more parts and just more thought and depth put into it. So one way to do that is, one of my favorite ways to do that from a verse to a chorus, is this is a way to make the chorus feel bigger, is during the last loop here, during the last four measures of the second verse, just to make parts of the drum track drop out one by one. So start with I would say the first thing to drop out should be the conga mute. Next thing would be the hi-hat, and then finally the snare drops at the last second. So what that can end up sounding like, this is a very quick and dirty way to do it, but what that can end up sounding like is from here. So this is from when the arpeggiator comes in. Right? So there's this interesting, and that's an effect that's very similar to a thing that a lot of DJs do as well, which is, if you've ever been to an EDM show and you've noticed that there's a song that has a particularly, like, oh, the build-up's really heavy, and then boom, and somehow it just feels louder after the drop than it did the previous time a song dropped, right? Than it did the previous main dance part of a song. It's not actually, it's at the same volume, but what the DJ is doing is, as they're building up to that drop in a song, they've just turned their volume down slightly. And they just continue to turn it down a little bit, slowly enough that you don't notice it getting quieter, but once it hits the chorus, bam, it's back at full volume, and now it feels like somehow it is louder than it has been all night, even though it's the same volume. Good little trick. And so that's sort of what this functions on the same principle as that, where what we're doing is there's less there and less there and less there for the verse, for content, and so then when the chorus comes in, it's boom, it's all the same stuff that was already there. It is in fact the exact same drum part, but it feels more, it feels bigger this time because we've taken stuff out. So listen to it again with that in mind. Bear that in mind and listen to it again here. Right, because then the chorus comes in and it... But I think the other thing that I want to do, I think there's one more thing that I want to do in order to make that chorus really feel bigger, because now what I've done... Oh, first of all, I think the conga mute shouldn't drop halfway through. Now that I have built this build-up, it feels like the chorus comes in and is almost a little disappointing. That's the trade-off, is that you have to make sure you actually have a really exciting chorus in order to do it this way. And so I'm going to show you one trick that I use in a lot of my songs to make a chorus spicier. That's the way I would put it. I like a little bit of spice on it. And so what I do here, and of course I look over and there's a sample here called Spicy E. Now we're not using that. What I am going to do is find, and I know that there are some near here somewhere. In one of these up here somewhere there is a ride. I just need a ride symbol. Give me a ride. And again, we're going to do this infinite needle in a haystack thing. I promise you I'm going to find a ride here eventually. Yeah, those are all locals and samples. No rides in this, really? Oh, somewhere in here there's going to be one, I swear to God. No. Where the heck is the... This loses a lot of... There we go. Just any ride. Any old ride will work. Definitely prefer this ride, though. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a new pattern. And I'm going to take this ride. I'm going to put it on its own little thing here. Boom. It's going to go onto a mixer channel of its own. So we're going to bring back the mixer. Here we go. And got to make it visible again. Boom. Mixer. So the ride is now on channel 5. So what I'm going to do on channel 5, and this is, again, this is something I do all the time in these, and it's kind of a weird trick, but it's very fun, is I'm going to throw distortion onto this ride symbol. I'm going to throw a fuzz distortion onto this ride symbol. Turn that channel down because that will make it very, very loud. And then I'm literally just going to go like this. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in pattern mode, so you can hear just the ride isolated by itself, this is what it sounds like. Right? It sounds like a bit of a disaster almost. It sounds hard, kind of hard to listen to. So that's why you always want to try and do some fine tuning with this here. It may end up being that I need to replace this ride slightly, but I'm going to try the other distortion that I have here, which is called Blood Overdrive. Yeah, I think I need a different ride that where when you hit the ride it doesn't last so long, doesn't fade for so long, because you can't really have it overlapping with itself if you're going to do this right. But I just need to find a good ride. Which there's got to be some around here somewhere. I do apologize. I know that me digging through these here, I was trying to avoid doing this much as I was running this stream here, because me digging through here, I have to listen to what I'm doing very, very closely, and it tends to end up being kind of me just staring at it going, See, that lasts too long. I need it to be shorter than that. And there is a solution that I can do if I don't find anything good here, but no. It's all treble. Nope. Okay, I think I'm just gonna have to stick with, let's see, okay, if there's nothing in here, I'm just gonna go with the trick that I have to make a not great ride much better for this sort of thing. Normally I wouldn't do this, and I'll probably go back later on when I'm really editing this song and refining it, replace this in a way, because this is kind of a ghetto fix. But basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go, this is the ride itself. In the settings here, there's a thing you can do where it says cut self, and what that means is now instead of, if you play the sound twice back to back, instead of overlapping those tails, it will, when you start the second one, it will cut the first one off. So now it sounds more like this, which is not really distinguishable to the human ear, but the point is there's less overlap. So now if I go back to my old distortion that was in here, throw on the fuzz, you get... It's not great. It's still not great. It's still not where I wanted it to be. I do want this sort of nastiness and this graininess of it, but it's still not where I want it to be, and so that's a matter of finding a better sample. But for now, I can illustrate the point with what I've done here. So if you come in here, this is where our second chorus hits. Now I'm going to add our new ride in here, and we're going to see as we come out of the verse here. And I'll give you a quick back and forth comparison. So there's it with the ride. If you want to know what it sounded like without it, so now there's just this kind of thing behind it, right? Where that can hopefully start to try and fill the hole in what was going on. Yeah, so now what we've got here, pretty much what could be a full song. I could write an outro here. But I'm going to do something else. I want to do something else for you. First of all, I want to try a little bit of an experiment, if you will, which is I want to move this out 8 beats, and I want to take the arp here, the arpeggiator, cut it in half, and throw it in the middle here. So now you get this build up, and then almost nothing, and then it comes in. This may or may not work, but we're just trying things here, and this is a good way to spice up a transition in a very easy way. So right, something like that. I don't hate that. I didn't actually think I was going to like it. I just wanted to demonstrate the principle of it, but what do you think, chat? I didn't think I was going to like it. I think I kind of like it. So give me your takes once chat catches up with stream. I want to see what you guys think about it. With this nice little gap here, I'm going to play it one more time here in case you didn't catch it, so that you can hear. Right, so there's that kind of like hold your breath moment before. What do we think, guys? All right, I think we'll stick with it. I think I like it enough, unless people are very vocally objecting to it. I really like it that way. So for a quick review, in case anyone hasn't been here the whole time, or just in case you've kind of forgot, and also because it's a very good idea when you're writing songs to do this from time to time. I'm going to take us all the way back to the beginning of the song. We're going to listen to the whole thing through one time here. This is a really good way just to get a sense of how what you're building is coming together, how the new things that you've added on change what you already thought existed, and just sort of take stock of where you're at in your process of writing your song, how much more new stuff you need to do, or what have you. So here it is from the top of the song, Space Vibes. Right. Right, this is still in vibe country, this part of the song here, very much. Right. That really does work in context, doing it that way. Yeah, so okay, so that's the song that we have right now. And we could hit an outro right now. I'm wondering if maybe we should just dig into building an outro and leave it at that. Because the other option that we have, and I almost don't want to propose it if I don't feel like I have time, but the other option that we have at this point, we could either outro this from here and just give the song a nice tail that ends it well, or we can build a solo, a bridge where we have some instrument play a solo over the top. And I get the feeling a solo is desired, but I don't know. I mean, we're at 2 minutes and 47 seconds of this here, and we still have to build an outro. So if we build an outro now, we're likely going to wind up at the 3 minute 15-second mark, which is like ideal song length for this type of project, for this type of thing that we're doing here. So I'm not sure. I think I'm going to try and work on an outro. We can always also, that's the other thing, we can always move things around to make room for one if we decide that we do have time, and you guys want me to show you how it's done. But as it stands, let's work on an outro. So one thing with an outro is it can work, and I think the best way to do this one work this very similar way to just being an intro in reverse, literally, where you just start to take all the layers that you put on at the beginning of the song and work backwards, just start peeling them off. The interesting thing of where we're at right now is that we're ending with a chorus, not a verse. So we could transition back into the verse and start peeling pieces away as we go and fade it down to just the same, so the song ends the same way it started. Or we can outro by taking this chorus and fading and cutting pieces off of that all the way down until we wind up with nothing left. And if we do that, I would assume in my head it would be the bass that would be the last thing left, as opposed to that lead synth that we started with. So I'm kind of feeling fading the chorus now. I think that's where we're gonna go. I like talking myself through these things, if you couldn't tell. I think we're gonna go with fading out the chorus because I've already showed you how to build in the verse. And if I were to outro on the verse, I would just be taking you back through that. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make these back to full length. Copy paste here. There's another whole loop of the chorus where I figure that'll be roughly the end of the song. There's maybe even a little bit further out than that. But then what you do from here, oh, you know what? Hey, one thing I never did. This is going to be interesting to do now. I never split this by channel the way that I was telling you guys, so I need to go to pattern 9 here. And now I have all of these individual little pieces here that I have to work out how they should sit, right? By doing that. And then now I need to go here. Fill out the course. So now we can see each of the individual pieces. This is a really key part to building an outro the way I'm talking about, is that if I had that in, then it was either all or nothing for the non-drum instruments within the chorus if I had left it that way. So what I just did is, I know you can't see my pop-up context menus because for whatever reason my computer doesn't want to capture them for you. But when you take a pattern and you pull down this menu, you can split by channel, which means each individual instrument becomes its own pattern, and then you can use that to arrange how you like and add and take things away individually as opposed to as one whole block or loop. So now I have individually, right, the synth, the pad, the bass, all of the drums as you know, and then the arp. So, as I think I mentioned, what I'd like to wind up with is at the end of this fade, we get just the last 3 notes of the bass. And so I think the first thing that comes out needs to be the ride, because that was the last thing that we added to the chorus. So we drop the ride there. So now that's the first step down. So this is the end of that chorus, right? So it already sounds a little bit more basic, right? Then I think we drop halfway through that loop, we drop those. And then we're going to do another thing here, which is I'm going to take out the kick. See, I almost keep getting two in my head and stop talking here because I'm so excited about trying to figure out what I'm doing here. So keep me on my toes, chat. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I'm here for you today. What I'm going to do there, so now I've got the hat and the conga mute cut out halfway through here. Then the kick and the snare are going to cut out after that. And then we're going to, I think maybe, let's see how it sounds if I cut that out too. And then we're going to leave, oh sorry, not that. I did the wrong one. Undoing through things. We're going to cut out you. Not move you. We're going to cut you out. I'm going to cut you out for the last 3 notes. And then, so it's going to sound something like this. Let's see how this sounds. So we're going to start from the regular chorus as it is full. 8 counts left, and then let's see how this outro sounds now. It's a good start. I almost feel like the kick needs to play through to the end. I almost feel like that's what it's missing, is because this kick is so deep. There's so much bass in this kick that when the kick goes away, suddenly the bass itself feels less bassy, feels less heavy. So let's try this. Let me know if you guys have a preference between the 2 versions. Oh, right, and then of course that needs the last 2 notes cut off of that. So like this, so the last part will sound. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that we've hit it with that one there, guys. So one more time with the last chorus here, just to get a sake of what this whole chorus with the outro sounds like. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good way to end that song. So there it is, chat. That's what it takes to get the bare bones of a song. There it is. We have gone from, those of you who have been with me from the beginning have gone from, as I said, thin air, bare bones, absolutely nothing, all the way here. We now have a song that is approximately 3 minutes and 7 seconds long, which is just what you hear on the radio. And one of the important things to think about at this point in writing a song is this is far from done. What this is written. We have now written a song. There is a lot left to do here. There's a lot of fine tuning, a lot of mixing. You have to think of it like a first draft of anything that you write. Where now, at this point in time, on a normal song that I would work on, I would take this file, I would save it, which I'm going to do right now. Again, reminder, if you have any creative projects open, save them right now. Go do it. We'll be here. But so what I'll do is I'll save the project, and then I would normally export this as it is as an MP3 file that I could load onto my phone, and then I would walk away from it for a while because you get what's called ear fatigue. You've listened to the same thing over and over again so many times that at this point you only hear, your brain fills in the gaps for you. You don't hear what it's really like, so you don't listen to it for a while, and then you take it around in your car or you take it around while you're doing something else in a pair of headphones, so that you really get a sense of where you're at with the song. And so this, what we have here now, though, is a very good bit of song writing. We have written a song, and now the key is to, do we want to make some of these synths? Do we want to get an actual synthesizer in here? Where we're actually playing on a keyboard. Do we want to tweak what the sounds are? Do I want to have a drummer come in and recreate this beat in some way? We have to write lyrics still. There's all the recording, all of the mixing. There's all of these processes that one has to go through after this point before you wind up with a finished track. So don't underestimate that part of the process, and don't undervalue that part of the process. I would say it's just as important as this writing bit. But I did want to take you through what it's like to write a song. The end product of this is, I have to be honest with you, it's not what I expected. I love it. I'm really, really into it, but it's very different than what my recent songwriting has been like. Those of you who were here at the beginning of the stream heard me perform a song at the beginning, and if you guys go on my Bandcamp after, please go on my Bandcamp after, you'll find that a lot of the music I write, it doesn't sound like this. There's bits of this in there, and you'll hear parts of it, but a lot of what I write and record doesn't sound a lot like this anymore. It used to sound a lot more like this, and so this isn't what I was expecting to come out of this, but I'm very, very pleased with it, and I hope you guys are too. Let's go ahead and from the beginning listen to our lovely Space Vibes song again. And if you guys hear anything that you want to point out, shout it out in the middle of the song. We do still have plenty of time that we can sit and make tweaks if you want. So yeah, here it is from the top, the song that you guys helped me with. This is working title, Space Vibes. I do still really like what the ARP does to it when it comes on. It did come out quite vibey, didn't it, chat? 100% pure vibes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There it is, guys. We have a song. One more tip that I'm gonna give you for free here is that so as you can hear at the end of the song here, there's all these things echoing. Wait, yeah, sorry. So if I pause it after the last loop here, this goes on for a lot longer than if I had left it going to here, right, to this end note here. So one thing that you want to do before you export this song, before you try to show it to anybody else like this as a file outside of a project file, is that if I were to export this right now, then the echoes would cut off hard at that point. They would not trail off in the export. What I like to do, and I think the best way to do this is you go to the menu, you go to the patterns, you right click, find first empty, which will take you to an empty pattern that has nothing in it, and you go a couple measures out after the end and you just add this blank pattern. This is a pattern with nothing. It has no content, nothing whatsoever. But now when I play out the end, see, now it lets the echoes fade out and everything. And so now if I were to export this as an MP3 file, you get the full tail end of those echoes in there. And there you have it, guys. That's all it takes. That's what it is. Songwriting in FL Studio. I have had an absolute blast. At this point in time, I do want to ask you guys, do you have any questions, any comments, anything else for me about FL Studio, about music making, about any of it, about Skinny Pig, about me, about things not contained in the Rusty Quill folder in Fruity Loops. I did have a blast though, guys. Do get your questions in now. I cannot thank you enough for how much fun it's been. And if nobody has any questions, I will move off of the FL Studio window here. But just going to give you guys a quick moment to catch up with chat. Thank you guys for watching. You guys keep saying thank you for doing this, but thank you so much for watching. This has been such a blast. Cheetah People says, is your songwriting related to how you got into audio engineering? Yes and no. Well, yeah, actually, really. It's basically because the way I became a sound engineer was a combination of things. I started getting into to FL Studio and to Fruity Loops at age 11, as I mentioned earlier, because a friend of mine had it, and his best friend's dad was a DJ and all kinds of things like this. So he showed it to me. We started working with it all the way back then, and a year or two later, I got into theater and began acting. But I very quickly made my way over to the tech side of things, and I did both for a long time until I was out of high school, and then I went hard into tech. So I am an audio engineer at a theme park now, not that theme park. I'm in Northern California, but this is a long way of saying yes. Fruity Loops got me into the idea of mixing and of doing things like this, and then theater gave me the idea of it as a career, and then that's how I got here. So yeah. When I write a song with lyrics, I start with lyrics and music, and if music, do you keep in mind lyrics while I write? I start with music almost exclusively. It's not a 100% exclusive thing, but almost exclusively I will start with the music because I am terrible at writing lyrics in a vacuum. I'm not bad at lyrics themselves, but I'm bad at writing them without a thing to go on, particularly a melody or things like this. With the exception of, for a very long time, the only music I really made was hip hop. And so let me get Fruity Loops out of your way. So for a very long time, the only music that I made was hip hop, and I can write hip hop without a beat and then make a beat to it. But even then, I mostly started with a beat because it's just so important that you have the vibe, that you know what the vibe is that you're going to be doing. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, often, generally, I always start with music because I'm garbage with melodies. And if I were to write a melody without a song underneath it, I could never make it fit. It's just not happening. So yeah, that looks like that might be it, guys. Okay, so let's just go ahead and we'll deal with the same housekeeping that we had at the beginning. It has been such a blast, guys. I know I'm getting out of here a little earlier than promised, but we moved so fast through this. I am very impressed with you guys for all of your help. I mean that very seriously. And you know, I hope to be back with you guys doing this again. Please let me and let us know if this was something that you found interesting, that you found enjoyable. I really loved it. I had a very fun time. Very quickly, I just want to make sure that you guys, if you're not already, check out our 3 shows: Rusty Quill Gaming, Magnus Archives, Stellar Firma, anywhere you get your podcasts. If you're not on the Discord, you should get on the Discord. It is a blast. Go to rustyquill.com to get the link for that. Sign up for our Patreon. There's all kinds of amazing exclusive content on there. And as Imogen Bot just helpfully said, from March onwards, 10% of monthly Patreon income we donated to the WHO COVID Solidarity Response Fund, which is very good. Oh yes, there's a Redbubble shop. That link is also in chat. My social media, follow me on Twitter at AnnieRuby _. That's ANNIERUBY and an underscore. You can grab the link to my Bandcamp from my bio there, or you can go to skinnypig.bandcamp.com. That's SKINNYPIG.bandcamp.com. There's 4 free songs up there for you guys to peruse. Pay what you want. If you are able to pay anything, I do very much appreciate that. Also follow Rusty Quill on social media at the Rusty Quill on Twitter. I think that pretty much does it for me, guys. Thank you all so much, chat. I have so greatly enjoyed this, and I hope to be back with you guys again sometime soon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night wherever you are.